Welcome back, Mystery Seekers, to another episode of the Mystery Society. We're doing another spin-off episode this week, so next week we'll be back with the main season, and then the week after that will be another spin-off, and we'll continue like that all the way through season 4. Today we're going to be talking about creepy underwater sounds. Some of them are unexplained, some of them started unexplained, and then we've been able to figure out the source of them. Unfortunately for me, I'm actually terrified of things underwater, so when I was researching these sounds, there's a lot of depictions from people of what they believe created these sounds, and they're pretty scary. So since I had to suffer through that, I'm going to be showing those photos as well. The Bloop. In 1997, researchers at the National Oceanic and Atmosphere Administration recorded a deep underwater rumbling sound on their underwater microphone array. Some of these underwater microphones were placed 2,000 miles apart from each other, and they were picked up on multiple microphones. Now, this sound had actually never been heard before by any researchers, so scientists began to speculate on what the cause could be. Their first explanation, of course, was some kind of a whale call, but this sound traveled 3 times further than a whale call could possibly echo underwater. Other interested parties, of course, suggested that it was some kind of massive undiscovered creature, some kind of sea monster underneath the sea. And of course, they have really great artistic depictions of what that monster could look like, and this is the Bloop monster. So now you have that in your brain just like I do. I haven't slept in days, so I figured I'd just record this video and then try once more in case getting it out of my mind and into yours is what is gonna break that curse for me. Now, one really interesting fact that I found by going onto some somewhat questionable websites is that H.P. Lovecraft fans actually believe that this sound could be Cthulhu. And the reason for that is if you go on Google Maps and you look up where Relay is, which is where Cthulhu's prison/slumber area is, it's actually pretty close to where the sound was picked up from. Now, this mystery was unsolved for years until 2005 when NOAA was able to pick up the sound again and triangulate it towards Antarctica. Since 8 years had passed, they had upgraded the microphone array and placed more microphones closer together. That way they could actually figure out where the sound was coming from more easily. They traced the sound back to Antarctica, and they determined that the sound was some kind of a massive ice quake. And the reason that they hadn't heard it previously was because, well, global warming hadn't set into effect quite yet. So now that global warming is picking up and making icebergs melt, there's more and more ice quakes as ice falls away from each other on Antarctica. Julia. Julia is the name given to a sound recorded by NOAA in 1999. Now, I'm gonna play the sound, and it's a little creepier in my opinion. Now, NOAA determined this to be an iceberg that had run aground on the coast of Antarctica. So apparently the idea is that it just sort of glanced off the side, and what we're hearing is the iceberg rubbing up against the coast of Antarctica. Do you buy that? I don't know. A commenter on the Cryptids fandom wiki claims that there's no way that this is an iceberg, and in fact there's a picture from Apollo's camera which is titled AA-35, that's the name of the camera. Apparently that took an aerial photograph of the area where Julia was heard, and you can see a massive shadow about the size of the Empire State Building moving slowly across the ocean. That's pretty scary already, and especially that noise mixed with that idea, and then of course, oh right, this artist's depiction of what Julia is supposed to look like. So now you have that too. Now, this commenter never provided the photograph that he said existed, and I did a lot of research trying to find that out. Unfortunately, not only has Apollo's camera missions not been going on since the 1970s, but there has never been an AA-35 camera, it just happens to not exist, and this photograph, therefore, does not exist whatsoever. It's a complete fabrication, but is that going to help me sleep at night after seeing that photo and listening to that sound? Not a chance. Upsweep. The Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory began recording using an underwater surveillance system in 1991. Now, this surveillance system was called SOSUS, the Sound Surveillance System, and it was developed by the Navy in the 1950s and then used in the 1960s to spy on Soviets during the Cold War. Now, what this was a massive microphone array that was being updated by the US government. Around the 1980s, or I believe it was the 1990s actually, they opened this surveillance system up so that researchers could use it to study underwater sounds. Now, since the time that SOSUS has been available to researchers, they've been hearing the upsweep sound. The source of the upsweep can't be identified, but it's actually loudest in the spring and fall and quietest in the summer and winter, and researchers are not really sure why. They've classified this sound as seasonal and believe the source to be some kind of seismic or volcanic activity in the area. Of course, other researchers believe that it's some kind of a massive sea creature, just like with all the other sounds, and in fact, maybe they all are. Who knows? I think we're probably doomed if that's the case. 52 Hz whale. The 52 Hz whale call was first recorded in 1989, and it's been heard every year since then. In fact, the sound is heard so frequently that researchers are actually able to map out the creature's migrating patterns, so they're able to follow the sound throughout the year as it migrates through the ocean. The interesting part about this is they say that this sound is only coming from one creature, not some kind of a pack or an entire species that we've not discovered, but actually just one whale. The 52 Hz whale puts out a whale call at 52 Hz, and an average whale will put out a call at about 30 Hz. The creature has never been seen by any scientists, it's only been heard through the sound surveillance system's underwater microphone array. Scientists are speculating that it's either some kind of a blue whale hybrid or an unknown species of whale that has yet to be discovered. The 52 Hz whale has been dubbed the loneliest whale in the world as it has such a unique whale call. Now, since we're talking about unexplainable sounds, I figured that we could put in a little bonus at the end here. So let's talk about something called the hum. The hum is a noise between 30 and 80 Hz that has been described as a low throbbing sound and usually is contained to an area of about 30 miles. Now, what is a little scary about the hum is not everybody can hear it. In fact, a lot of citizens who move into towns that the hum is famous for don't hear it right away, but only begin to hear the hum after they become acclimated to the area. In fact, I heard a story about a documentarian who went to one of these towns to make a documentary on the hum, and it took him, I believe he said, 7 or 8 months to start hearing it. The hum has most notably been heard in Auckland, New Zealand, Taos, New Mexico, and Windsor, Ontario. In all of these areas, residents complained of the sound to their local governments, but nobody was ever able to find the source of the sound. In fact, in Windsor, Ontario, Canadian authorities tried to triangulate the sound and believed it to be coming from Zug Island, which was an industrial island off the shore of Windsor that actually belonged to the US. It was a territory of Michigan. Authorities on Zug Island kept Canadian officials away from the island and would not let anybody come investigate. This happened for years until 2020 when the sound finally stopped after the blast furnaces were closed on Zug Island. Back in Auckland, New Zealand, a lot of residents were selling their homes in order to get away from the sound. And that's the most interesting thing is a lot of researchers have suggested that maybe this is some sort of tinnitus. But when these residents move away from the areas that the hum is famous for, they don't hear it anymore. Tom Moore of Massey University actually recorded the sound of the hum despite not being able to hear it himself. Despite his and others' research, there's been no cause found for the hum, and this is still going on in dozens of cities around the world. So thanks so much for watching this episode of the Mystery Society. I hope you got your little mystery fix from these creepy underwater sounds, and of course the hum, which I think that everybody should do more research into. It's a really interesting phenomenon. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like. That helps us out with the algorithm so that we can get served up to more people and do more things with the channel. If you leave a comment letting us know what you thought about these mysteries, that always helps out as well, and we'd love to read those. And please subscribe for future episodes of Season 4, future episodes of our spin-offs. We're going to do all kinds of different things in the future. We have a lot coming down the pipeline, so please stick with us as we're doing all this, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next week for more of Season 4 Lost at Sea, where Taylor's going to be hosting and telling us about another great mystery.